and me in this big family, in this liberated family, don't forget to remember me with a kind and humble word.
Доброго дня, шановні гості! Сьогодні ми вшановуємо пам'ять геніального сина українського народу, великого генія, кобзаря, пророка, художника, мислителя Тараса Григоровича Шевченка. Коли ми говоримо Тарас Шевченко, ми ідентифікуємо ці слова із Україною. Відтоді, як пролунало перше слово великого кобзаря, звучить воно в серцях і душах українців і понині. Сьогодні ми приготували багато чудових виступів для вас, і ви можете ознайомитися з програмою цього заходу у вашій брошурі. Ми розкажемо вам про нашого українського героя Тараса Шевченка, і ви побачите виступи різних артистів, які будуть виконувати його твори, вірші та пісні. Також сьогодні для вас будуть виступати багато новоприбулих, талановитих українців, які приїхали в Канаду зовсім нещодавно. В програмі сьогоднішнього вечора буде 2 відео, і ви зможете знайти переклад тексту на англійську мову для одного із відео на зворотній стороні вашої брошури. Душу й тіло ми положим за Шевченка і його дружини Катерини народився син Тарасик. Він був 4-ю дитиною в родині, а став першим сином України, великим генієм, поетом. У Шевченка було непросте життя, і більше про його життєвий шлях.
Ironically, Taras Shevchenko spent more of his life outside of Ukraine than in Ukraine, not by choice. And here to tell us more about Taras Shevchenko in Kyiv, the capital.
Thank you very much. Okay. There are so many things written about Taras Shevchenko that it's difficult to find an original angle to look at him, his life, and understand him as an important figure. And yet, we sometimes identify Shevchenko with Ukraine in general, without realizing that in his time, Ukrainians, so many people would do a century later. Kirillivka is 74.5 kilometers from Kiev. Yet Kyiv is a big city. It's a big city in which almost nobody speaks Ukrainian in Taras Shevchenko's time. So how does he fit? Does he even fit? First, we don't quite know when Shevchenko first visited Kyiv. There are suggestions in literature that when his father as a Chumak was traveling Ukraine, he was taking Shevchenko to a few cities. We know for sure about Dnipro, that he has been there, but there is no trace because that would be very early childhood, maybe the age of 5. So he didn't leave any messages in his poetry. We know that in 1829, Shevchenko finally makes it to Kyiv, but it's a part of a household. He is actually a domestic servant for his landlord, and so he makes it there in 1829, but there isn't actually much trace of it in his poetry other than to present Kyiv in 2 curious ways. One, it's a place where the lords go, and as they go, they look at the peasants they are leaving behind and don't really care about the peasants, even their own illegitimate children. That comes up in 2 poems. And second, Kyiv is a sacred place. He doesn't actually mean sacred as a place of Ukraine. He means it actually in a spiritual, religious sense. And here we already see the first moment when Shevchenko is coming up with a way of accepting Kyiv as it was in his time. And of course, when Shevchenko finally makes it to Kyiv as an adult in 1843, and then returns in 1844, 45, and 46, he has seen big cities. He has been to Vilnius, and he realized full well that in Vilnius he was actually a representative of the empire, but the local Poles and Lithuanians did not necessarily like his landlord and the entire retinue which came with the landlord. Actually, Shevchenko ended up being deported from Vilnius together with other servants of his landlord. They were seen as representing the oppressive Russian Empire, and yet he managed in Vilnius to actually fall in love with a Polish girl. And she did leave an interesting trace in his work. So he's familiar with imperial cities, but also before returning to Ukraine, he knows St. Petersburg. And it is very interesting how he works out his way towards building his life in St. Petersburg. He actually relies on the countrymen, земляки, on Ukrainians who live there. Wherever he goes, he's looking for Ukrainians, immediately becomes friends, rents apartments together with them. In many ways, he's like foreign student today in Canada, really missing that environment. When he does come to Kiev, what kind of Kiev he sees there? And that's actually very interesting. First of all, when it comes to the notion of a sacred Kiev, it is not always located geographically in the city or in the present. It is more often presented by looking from the left bank, which of course in his time is Chernihivska Gubernia, which is not Kiev. He twice described emerging from the forest in Brovary and seeing the Saint Lavra, and that alone, seeing it from a distance, already can change a person, already can make a criminal in one of his poems repent. A second Kiev we find is the Kiev of Cossack freedom, and also the Kiev of Bursaki, students of the seminary of Kiev-Mohyla Academy studying to become priests. That is located in the past, and it is actually very Ukrainian. It is the place of freedom. It's у Києві на Подолі, братерська наша воля, без холопа і без пана. So it's our fraternal freedom without lord, without a serf. And it is very Ukrainian, but it's only part of town. The second location is Lavra and St. Sophia Cathedral in the past, not in the present. In his novel Bliznytsi, he actually explains what is most fascinating about that life, that the 18th century, the times of the famous Ukrainian spiritual writer, the archpriest Ioan Levanda, who is now completely forgotten, but back in the late 18th century was seen as one of the most important intellectual figures, and Grigory Skovoroda. Both belong to the past, both belong truly to the previous century. So Shevchenko is there physically. We know he spends quite some time in Lavra, and of course what is on my mind is what is happening now in Lavra, with the Russian Orthodox Church finally being put out from it. So we know that Shevchenko stays there. He stays at the printing house building, which is a beautiful Baroque building, still preserved today. But he appears to be spending most of his time looking at the left bank, at the Dnieper and Ukraine beyond the Dnieper, rather than at Lavra itself. So his notion of Kiev as a sacred place is located in the past, and it is, when seen from a distance, it emerges. So very interesting, two positions here. So one in the city, but not in the most important imperial places, and also from the past. Another that of an outsider. And of course, we cannot bypass the element of his actual work being done in Kiev as an artist. He has a commission to draw some historical places. He also does some of them in watercolor. We have lost lots of them, but some of them are preserved. And in recent decades, beautiful small memorials were built on several locations portraying the place from which Shevchenko actually drove that particular important building. But they too belong to the past, and many of them were built by Hetman Mazepa. And we know that Shevchenko is aware of that because it comes in his description of Pereyaslav. So he's most definitely, when he's portraying the Church of All Saints in Lavra and Kiev, he definitely knows that it is one of Mazepa's construction buildings. So, a very interesting notion of what Kiev is. People travel there, people look at it from a side, people can delve into Kiev's past, and when Shevchenko goes walking, we know he has been to the Mariinsky Park in front of the parliament, because he describes the beautiful but cold ladies who walk there to demonstrate their dresses. They clearly do not belong to his world. what does belong to his world? Actually, the banks of the Dnieper. Apparently, his favorite stroll in Kiev was to go along the Dnieper to the Vidubetsky monastery. Bypassing in this way the aristocratic and the most imperial part of the Upper Kiev. So, here we are then. He does not have that dilemma which is present in the next generation. When Mikhailo Staritsky and Mykola Lysenko, two great Ukrainian cultural figures and patriots of the late 19th century, move into Kiev, they find it alien city where everybody speaks Polish. This is not something Shevchenko would note. So for the next generation, they want to conquer Kiev in the present, and they start the work which actually does that, because a generation of their own children, the generation of Lesya Ukrainka, are going to speak Ukrainian in everyday life, and that is the generation which is going to make the Ukrainian revolution. And it is actually very telling that Shevchenko is symbolically present for that generation in many ways, as he remains in Kiev. Of course, his last trip to Kiev is well known. In 1861, his coffin arrives where? To the Podil, the same neighborhood that he felt was connected to Ukrainian history, culture, and freedom. And from there, students, members of that next generation, of the generation of Lysenko, Staritsky, Dragomanov, would carry his coffin further. So, Shevchenko was arrested twice in Kiev, once trying to get into the city at the ferries. As soon as the ferry docked, he was arrested. And you almost feel like he couldn't truly, fully arrive in his lifetime. But he did that in his death, and his death in itself became a powerful instrument in the creation of a new Ukrainian Kiev, which we now know and which is defended against very much the same enemy. Thank you.
Мені цікаво почути про життя Тараса і його непростий життєвий шлях. Ми продовжимо наш вечір, і наступним буде відео «Гомоніла Україна». Гомоніла Україна, довго гомоніла, довго-довго кров степами текла, червоніла.
Thank you, Dr. Nikelchik. What an interesting story about Taras Shevchenko and about Kyiv. And now to our first video. You'll find the translation on the back page of your program. I'm sorry the print is so small, but it wouldn't fit otherwise. I hope you brought your magnifying glass. Ukraine was alive with noise for a long time. For a long time, blood poured over the steppes, trickling, reddening them.
Україна довго гомоніла, довго-довго кров степами текла, червоніла. І день, і ніч, гвалт, гармати, земля стогне, гнеться. Сумно, страшно, а згадаєш, серце усміхнеться, гірше пекла. А завіщо? За що люди гинуть? Того ж батька, такі ж діти, жити б та брататься, ні. Не вміли, не хотіли, треба роз'єднатися. Треба крові, брата крові, бо заздро, що в брата є в коморі і на дворі, і весело в хаті. Уб'єм брата, спалим хату. Сказали і сталося, все б, здається, ні на кару. Сироти остались. В сльозах росли та й виросли замучені руки, розв'язались і кров за кров, і муки за муки. Пекельне є свято, по всій Україні всю ніч зареве. Потече багато, багато, багато вражої крові. Козак оживе. Оживуть гетьмани в золотім жупані, прокинеться доля, козак заспіва. Ні орків, ні ворогів в степах України, о Боже мій милий, блисне булава. Не ту заспіваю, іншої заграю, лихо, не дівчата буде танцювати, недолю співаю козацького краю. Слухайте ж, щоб дітям потім розказати, щоб і діти знали, внукам розказали, як козаки Мокшаню тяжко покарали за те, що не вміли в добрі панувати. Дякуємо, Тарасе, наш пророчий тату, за те, що боровся за Вкраїну матір, за те, що всі герої, такі як ти, не дають Україні зараз згинути в війні. Борітеся, поборете, вам Бог помагає. За вас правда, за вас слава і воля святає. Слава Україні, героям слава!
неволі з тобою. Розкажи, як за горою сонечко сідає, як у Дніпра веселочка воду позичає, як у Дніпра веселочка воду позичає, як широка сокорина пісні розпустила, а над самою водою неба повільнилась, а над самою водою неба повільнилась, як у полі на могилі вовкулак ночує, а січ лісі та на стрісі недолю віщує, а січ лісі та на стрісі недолю віщує. На що стали на папері сумними рядами, чому світер не розвіяв степу, як пилину, чому слихом не приспало, як свою дитину. Думи мої, квіти мої, діти, і роса вас, доля та вас, де ж мені вас діти? Україно, іди, нашу Україну, упитину сиротами, порятуй загину. Там знайдете щире серце і слово ласкаве, там знайдете щиру правду, а ще може славу. Моя ненько, моя Україно, моїх діток нерозумних, як свою дитину. Думи мої, лихо мені з
до живих і мертвих, народжених у Україні і не Україні моє дружнє послання. І світає, і смеркає, День Божий минає.
Зустрічайте наш зірковий гість, людина, яка назавжди змінить ваше уявлення про бандуру. Григорій Матвієв з імпровізацією «Взяв би я бандуру» та «По дорозі жук».
Petersburg in 1861. And he wrote this poem, Zapovit, in 1859, and it means last will and testament. The opening goes, "When I die, please bury me on a mound or burial hill in the middle of a wide prairie steppe in my native Ukraine." Taras Shevchenko was buried in Kanyev, in Ukraine, on a hill, Chernecha Hora, on the bank of the Dnipro River. He finally came home to Ukraine. I'd like to welcome Luna Ensemble. They're going to sing Zapovit, and I'd like to invite everybody to join the song, and if you know it.
Як умру, то ховайте мене на могилі серед степу широкого на Вкраїні милій, серед степу широкого на Вкраїні милій, що влади широкої і Дніпро, і кручі, було видно, було чути, як реве ревучий, було видно, було чути, як реве ревучий. Поховайте, оставайте, хай дали порвіте, і вражою свою кров'ю мою окропіте, і вражою свою кров'ю мою окропіте.
Today, to celebrate the life and work of the Ukrainian hero Taras Shevchenko. His words remain true and inspiring today, encouraging us all to learn and expand our minds, to seek truth and light, and to fight for justice and freedom. Another of his famous words, their poeticism is really lost in translation, but Taras Shevchenko wrote, "Fight, and you will see victory. God is on your side. Behind you is truth, behind you is glory, and your sacred freedom." Thank you to all the performers who joined us today and for sharing your talents with us. Without you, this event wouldn't have been possible. And we have so many creative people among us. It's truly worth the price of admission. If you forgot to donate or didn't see the donation box on your way in, you can donate on your way out, or you can even send an e-transfer to the email address on the front page of your program. The Ukrainian Canadian Congress is a volunteer-run organization, and your donations go towards supporting events like this and others throughout the year in Victoria. I'd like to thank Father Yuri for hosting us in the church hall today. And thank you to the committee and to the Ukrainian Canadian Congress who organized this event. We're really glad to be able to keep the memory of Taras Shevchenko alive, and glad that you came out today. We hope you learned something about Taras Shevchenko and about Ukrainian culture. And please remember our brothers and sisters in Ukraine still fighting the injustices that Taras Shevchenko wrote about. Please continue to stand with Ukraine. I want to close by saying, Slava Tarasu Shevchenko, glory to Taras Shevchenko, і слава Україні! Glory to Ukraine, to the heroes' glory. Thank you very much.